a real challenge to my conscience. I mean, I know what has been done in the past. I know what I have done, like in the distant past and the immediate past. And this week I had to come to grips with it because, as regular viewers know, listeners know, I have said that the best Christmas movie, bar none, modern day Christmas movie is on Apple TV. It's Spirited. It's the Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds thing. I like that. And one of the basic premises of the movie is Reynolds is a bad guy who is helping the the real Christmas tree lobby defeat the fake Christmas tree lobby, and that's maybe where I draw the line. I found out this weekend. I love fake Christmas trees. I I that's me. I love the fake Christmas tree. Come on. You use it over, you recycle. It's in the spirit of that recycling idea. I mean, you don't really recycle a used dead Christmas tree after Christmas. You throw it out in the street and the guys come pick it up and maybe they put it in a wood chipper. Maybe. I don't know what they do. They put it out and they put it in a dumpster somewhere. But a a plastic tree, a plastic tree may be the answer. You solve the dump issue. You recycle, you reuse, and even though I'm a fan of Spirited, this weekend I realized I'm a plastic tree guy. I'm sorry, I'm a plastic tree guy. I just am. I it's perfect. It looks good. It does. You don't drop any needles. If you need a scent, you can buy a spray. But I like the way it smells now. It smells like a combination of my dog and my cat. That's a Christmas smell. I I love the fake tree. It's not a fake tree. It is a faux tree. A faux tree. Happy faux tree Christmas, everyone. We're getting into the spirit. Then we bought a faux wreath. We have a real Christmas tree out in the front, which is an actual Christmas tree, which is a living Christmas tree, which we grow, and it's a little tiny one. It's like if Charlie Brown had it looks like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree next to really, the big, the White House Christmas tree or the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. But we decorated with lights and we had the Rockettes come out, the mini Rockettes. We simulate the leg lifts. Anyway, I hope you're getting into the spirit. It's coming, it's happening. Welcome to the program. This is Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. I just talk about the news and stuff in my life, and hopefully we connect rather. I call this the WDAAAT. Well, what does an Asian American think? Yeah, that's why you come to the Takeout. You say, well, what are his takes on, I don't know, the Supreme Court? I'll get to that in a second. Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Yeah. The micro talk show. It's a micro talk show. I mean, whether you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, you can watch it YouTube at Emil Amok One or on Twitter. Twitter, it's live. We're live at 2 p.m. Pacific at Emil Amok on Twitter. And also you can go on catch the replays on amok.com if you're watching a replay of an old show and you want to see, oh, well, he's doing, whatever number. This is episode 441. Welcome to it. I call it the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. And if you're neither that, an Asian American X, Filipino AAF, Asian American Chinese, an AACH, an ACH, an Asian American Japanese, AAJ. Maybe if you're not neither of those, maybe you're just an ALL. All the rest of you're welcome to this program and welcome to listen. and welcome to read my columns at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. Today we're going to talk about that SCOTUS hearing today. I mean, I was a little kind of excited in a way that they were going to, I got an alert saying they were going to play the K-12, or not the K-12, but the affirmative action hearing. And I think I had the wrong notification on my email. Turns out it was this Colorado case of the website builder who doesn't want to do same-sex marriage websites. She thinks it's an affront to her freedom of speech, her religious rights, her First Amendment rights. So I want to talk about that in a second. But that's a big deal. I also want to talk about the K-12 school board battle. If you listen to show 440, I talked to Allison Collins and Gabriela Lopez, who they were two of the three ousted school board members of the San Francisco Board of Education, who were ousted in February of this year. If you weren't following the case, they were just trying to do policies that were reflective of what their constituency, people of color in the San Francisco Unified School District, what they wanted. So as far as they're concerned, they were just doing their jobs. And conservatives, bolstered by money from outside the district, came in and launched a recall against these three board members and were successful. And it became news and it launched a whole thing that we're seeing nationwide. So after this, listen to episode 440 that I did. And also I say that a conversation with Gabriela Lopez and Allison Collins, I'll put up on my podcast, Emil, Amok, Takeout. See, this is sort of a podcast. It's more like a live stream. And I've been threatening to put it on my podcast, but my podcast is just sort of there, wherever you podcast, Emil, Amok, Takeout. I will put that conversation on the podcast so you can access it wherever you podcast, and you'll hear what they have to say. And I think it will surprise you, their perspective. And of course, it was all from a Q&A panel that I was on, or I moderated with them, when Ishmael Reed's new play, The Conductor, which is inspired by the recall effort. He did, or there was a screening of a videoed reading over the weekend. I hope you caught some of it. The play is going to be done live in the Bay Area at some point, but it is going to New York in March. So it'll have its off-Broadway premiere in March. I have a very small part, but it's exciting. I'm going to be part of it. That's in March, but Ishmael Reed's play was inspired by the recall effort. You can listen to the recall members on my podcast at Emil Amok's Takeout. All right, so let's talk about this SCOTUS ruling. I didn't realize what a big thing it was going to be. All right. I mean, like I said, I thought it was going to be, I thought that the notice I was getting from C-SPAN was that they were repeating a hearing on affirmative action. Turns out that wasn't right. It's this case involving a company called 303 Creative Ltd. Out of Colorado, and a website designer by the name of, let's get her name. I mean, Caucasian American woman, website designer named Lori Smith. She doesn't want to make wedding websites for same sex marriage couples because it infringes on her artistic free speech. Now, if it sounds like a case that the Supreme Court heard maybe 4 years ago, it's similar because they heard about a wedding cake, not a website, but a wedding cake baker who wouldn't serve wedding cakes to same-sex marriage couples. And I guess the court didn't want to consider the scripted frosting and the decorations on a wedding cake as a First Amendment right because the Supreme Court just said, no, you got to serve everybody. And actually, that was the argument by the Colorado Attorney General that a business that's open to the public must serve all of the public. That's pretty basic. But from wedding cakes, we go to wedding websites, and the wedding website person said today, well, wait a minute. You got to consider the First Amendment. So that's what we have here. We have a First Amendment case before the Supreme Court that could make discrimination legal. Imagine that. And it could threaten the meaning of diversity in our country. I mean, this is what happens when you ask the question, when is a website just a website? Or when can it be considered a form of expression covered by the First Amendment? And if the law applies to a website owner who wishes not to serve LGBTQ clients, then could a website be like a restaurant that wishes not to serve gay people? Or maybe even a private university that wishes not to serve LGBTQ students? This is how broad this decision could be. And the ACLU, which heretofore has been absolutist on free speech rights for even the most odious, right? Saying that, hey, you might have an opinion we don't agree with, but you have a right to say it. Okay. Great, Mr. Nazi. You go out there and have your Nazi marches, free speech. But this may be the line because the ACLU has released a statement that warns if 303 Creative wins here, we will live in a world in which any business that has an expressive service can put a sign that says, women not served, Jews not served, Black people not served. That's a quote from the ACLU. So this clearly is a line. And, it's hard not to think of the history that we've had to overcome that has really established that line already. I mean, you hear the oral arguments in this 303 Creative Ltd case heard by the U.S. Supreme Court today, Monday. And if Lori Smith, the website designer who doesn't want to do wedding websites for LGBTQ couples because it infringes on her artistic free speech and her religious rights, if she prevails, this could be a major step backwards. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, most people know about historic Jim Crow laws in the South, right? Blacks not here. I mean, the public accommodation laws were done to get rid of Jim Crow laws. But I bet you didn't know that in the 1920s in California, there were anti-Asian signs up in public buildings that said, no Filipinos allowed. And subsequent to that, after December 7, 1941, there were similar views against Asian American Japanese people, which ultimately fueled the incarceration of innocent Asian Americans around the country. So you look at this 303 Creative case and you say, wow, are we going backwards? The Attorney General of Colorado has argued that a business open to the public must serve all the public. That's the right way to look at this. But the plaintiff, the website designer, she's taken it up the courts. She knew it was going to happen. She knew that after the wedding cakes, well, how about wedding websites? And now it looks like the court may have to rule with the insertion of the First Amendment rights that might allow discrimination based on a business owner's free speech rights. As I said, it could be the pathway to legal discrimination in the land. And just think how that could apply to, say, private universities whose trustees and board members believe as the website maker did. Are you ready for a new era of affirmative discrimination? If the court upholds this website designer's assertion, what is to stop a college, its administrators and professors from saying they can't teach or serve LGBTQ people whose beliefs, same-sex marriage, offend their rights? And of course, as the ACLU suggests, why stop with the LGBTQ? Why would a racist empowered by the First Amendment stop there? Go after blacks, go after women, go after Jews, go after Asians. They might again. If this case that the Supreme Court heard today looks like, if the conservative court passes and approves or fines for the plaintiff, we could be at the precipice of really an avalanche of racism when protected racism is a thing because it's equivalent to protected speech, protected free speech rights. You say, now, hey, come on, Emil. Kind of hypothetical. There are a lot of hypotheticals at today's hearing, if you listen to the justices' questions. Alito had a bunch, Kagan had some. It only reveals a clear division between the conservatives and the liberals, especially when it comes to religious freedom. Now, the court's ruling is expected sometime next year. I don't know how the justices will rule on this case, but we know how very willing they were to end abortion rights. And we also know that the political class is ready for more in-your-face racism. If we can judge that by their moral failure in addressing some concerns, our political leaders have just failed us. Where was the Republican Party in denouncing the former President Donald Trump's dinner with anti-Semite Ye? He's not Kanye West. He's the anti-Semite Ye, formerly known as rapper Kanye West. But you got to say anti-Semite Ye. That's his name. Not Kanye. He's anti-Semite Ye. And then his partner, Nicholas Fuentes, known white supremacist. There they were having dinner with Donald Trump. Did we see a full-throated denunciation of racism and bigotry? Not from the Republicans, afraid of their leader Trump, who is, by the way, since threatened to terminate the Constitution. This is American democracy in 2022. And I didn't really think that this case today was going to be as big. But as I hear or as I heard some of the hearing today and the arguments, look, anyone who says they know how a court is going to rule is really, they're guessing. But boy, the conservatives sure did seem sympathetic. Already we've got a society braced for the court's decision on affirmative action. And now we have this case. You can look for it. It's called the 303. That's the Denver area code or Colorado area code 303 Creative LTD case. The website designer who won't do same-sex marriage websites. It's a thing apparently. You got the the registry, and here's where you go, and she won't do it. It's an affront to her beliefs as a Christian, and the conservative court, the same court that went against abortion rights in America, seemed very sympathetic. This is part of that reversal trend of all the things that we've come to know and love about American society, the freedom, the diversity. We're already bracing, as I said, for a decision on affirmative action. This case will be yet another one to fear from this predominantly conservative court that threatens what diversity means in America. I can't imagine it happening for real, but with the 6-3 conservative court, I can, and I do fear. And all this is happening as we were talking about last week, how the Senate has approved that same-sex interracial marriage bill, which is good. It doesn't necessarily codify same-sex marriage, but it gives states the option to make their decision. What's scary about that is that we had 12 Republican senators who they crossed over. They joined those who were for same-sex marriage. And why? They did because they know Republicans who are LGBTQ. They know that LGBTQ is not a Republican Democrat thing, it's a human thing. And so 12 made it a bipartisan bill. It moves to the House, and it probably will pass the House, and it probably will be signed by President Biden. But what happens when it gets approved and is the law, and yet we have a Supreme Court that, from the reports that the mainstream is reporting on this 303 Creative case, the people who read the SCOTUS tea leaves are saying it looks like the court is leaning and sympathetic toward the website designer who doesn't want the government telling her to make a same-sex marriage website. And that would divide us. That would create that fissure between the court, if the court does go ahead and rule for the designer, versus the Congress. I think this is an indicator. Democracy, it's in trouble. And if you want to help it along, as I said the other day, if you have any friends in Georgia, if you know anyone in Georgia, Tell them tomorrow's a big day. Senator Raphael Warnock needs your vote, and America needs your vote, because if Warnock wins, it gives the Democrats 51 seats in the Senate, which is a comfortable majority. You don't need Kamala Harris to break a tie. You can let a couple of renegade senators say, hey, I can't vote with you. You still have enough. I mean, there's so much flexibility to get the job done for the people of this country. And if you're Asian American, you're listening to this, look, I know there's a ton of Asian Americans in Georgia. We know that. We know that there are about 133,000 AAPI voters in Georgia, with the huge burst happening just the last few years. They can make the difference. It's such a small difference right now, at least according to the polls, all within margin of error. It looks like Warnock may squeeze it out, but you never know. People lie to pollsters. You never know what happens. You got to get out there and vote. Every single vote counts. This year, the Warnock group, Warnock is buying ads in Vietnamese, Mandarin, and Korean. It's important. And ALDEF is out there. They're going to have an exit poll. When ALDEF did the exit poll November 8th, Asian Americans came out in full support for the Democratic candidate, 60.1% to 33.3%. It's got to be at least that on December 6th. Got to be at least that. Just to hold, or just to make sure that Warnock remains the top choice. Because I don't know if you've seen this. NBC was reporting it today. They had an exclusive interview with the woman, Cheryl Parsons, who said she had a 5-year relationship with Walker, dating back to 2005 when he attacked her. I mean, the woman's coming out now. She originally talked to the Daily Beast. Now she's on television. Funny thing is, I saw this on NBC. I didn't see it on CNN. I didn't see it on other channels. Because look, it's a competitive world out there. And if you need the news, well, news organizations aren't so high-minded that they will allow or give a competitor an advantage. It's too bad, because as more people try to figure out, well, I don't know, I really think I like some aspects of Walker. No, you can't. I mean, the only thing good about Walker, if you are a Republican, is now he's starting to emulate the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. And Kemp is the guy who people are watching. Republican governor, believing that, Herschel Walker isn't so bad compared to a Democratic-controlled Senate. But the fact is, Herschel Walker is worse than a Democratic-controlled Senate, because it means you have voted for a man, Herschel Walker, who has no business being a U.S. Senator, has no business running, is being used by Donald Trump, is the hand-picked candidate of Donald Trump, is just not competent to be U.S. Senator. That's where everyone else in the country, if you know someone in Georgia who has a vote, you've got to encourage them to go out Tuesday. I mean, they had something like 1.8 million people voting in the early election. And early elections are fine. That included some people who didn't vote in the midterms. So there are new voters coming in this time. one thing distressed me when I was watching some of the news this morning. There were actually some people saying, God, we are voting so much. They're fatigued. They don't want to do it. Look, is it tiring to take your black marker and fill in the square or the rectangle? Is it really? I know it's difficult. Long lines. They're making it tough. Republicans are making it tough by making restrictive laws to vote. I mean, and I know Asian Americans love to vote by mail, right? They want to do it efficiently, as they should. But I hear this idea of voter fatigue, and this is no time for voter fatigue because turnout is going to determine what happens in the turnout tomorrow. December 6th, Tuesday, is a big deal. So don't forget. Don't forget. Tomorrow, I'm going to revisit this, and I hope you're voting. I hope you check it out because tomorrow I'm going to talk about why I most definitely am not a Herschel Walker guy. And it has to do with werewolf or vampire. Werewolf or vampire. I'm telling you, that's how I'd vote if I were from Georgia. I've been through that. I've been to Georgia a bunch of times. My daughter used to live there. I actually have a very soft spot in my heart for Atlanta, except when it's too hot and they make that darn sweet tea. I just like it plain. I just like it. I like a tea, not a sweet tea, a tea. But I'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, so we got our wedding websites. We talked about K through 12. I want to talk about this story because, if this thing goes through, right, it's free speech. And it really is not just free speech, but it's your religious right, your religious right to free speech. That's what I fear that the conservative justices on the Supreme Court are kind of leaning toward because they're all for kind of theocracy, a theocracy that says no to abortion, that says, we should have religion in schools, no separation, church and state, not in the schools, not in government. It's a theocracy. That's what they want. Well, I saw this in a conservative. I read the conservative media just to see what they're barking at. And this is the headline. Harvard's latest woke musical puts Jesus and Judas in gay Asian love relationship. And this is for real. Further proof that an Ivy League education isn't worth what it used to be came courtesy of a new student-produced musical about Judas Iscariot, told in the style of a Gaysian love story that one participant concluded was most assuredly not heretical. All right, so the writer here from this conservative outlet has a beef with not heretical. Really? Well, that's not a heresy. Gaysian love story, but this is why the Christian right, they've got a problem with LGBTQ issues. There's a second graph. Marxist ideologies like critical race theory, gender theory, and queer theory have advanced far from outlier topics of discussions at universities to subjects covered in K-12 education across the nation. See, this links back to the school board recall. As such, the envelope has only further been pushed toward radicalization as demonstrated by the limited release of Iscariot from December 1st through 4th at Harvard's Agassi Theater. This is a student group. I actually have to applaud the fact that they did this at Harvard. Third graph. The play, executive produced and created by Harvard gender studies and theater student Sophie Kim, was described to the Harvard Crimson as a heretical Gaysian love story, Gaysian being a portmanteau of gay and Asian. With the roles of Judas, no, we know Gaysian, Asian Americans, we've been using Gaysian for a long time. Portmanteau. It's a coinage, but it's been around. With the roles of Judas and Jesus both played by actresses, Kim went, oh, so you have a female Judas and Judas. That's called expressive, innovative casting. Kim went on to tell the outlet, the student newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, Jesus and Judas are high school seniors at a fancy high school in Hollywood. They are both kind of outsiders in the preppy club of the disciples. They team up to win prom king, and then shenanigans ensue. There's a betrayal. There's a crucifixion. It's pretty much Wicked meets High School Musical and Jesus Christ Superstar, she added, as described by the Crimson. The musical, conceptualized by Kim in fall of 2021 and partially inspired by a meme on Tumblr, reimagines Judas Iscariot as a queer Asian American high school senior who falls in love with Jesus, betrays him, and learns to take control of his own narrative. I don't see anything wrong with this. And yet, they're trying to make this a thing. Oh, look at the latest. Look at this is heresy. No, it's not heresy. It's called freedom. It's called expression. It's the same thing that the anti-LGBTQ website maker is calling for. And just as she gets freedom of expression, so does Sophie Kim at Harvard. The Harvard gender studies and theater student, Sophie Kim, she can write this, they can put it on. And frankly, as an alum, I'm saying, what took them so long? I mean, I was there decades ago. And if they were this open and this free to express themselves, it would have been a very different experience. Very, very different, not just a very different Harvard, a very different America. I saw this, and while conservatives were like, oh my God, Jesus and Judas as women, I saw this as, wow, this is an interesting, I haven't seen the musical. I reserve judgment, but the idea, Wicked meets High School Musical and Jesus Christ Superstar, I'm down with it. We all should be down with it. We all should be saying, yeah, hooray. This is America. This is art, free expression, free speech. We should protect this. And if you're saying, wow, but this is happening at Harvard where, like the Asians, there are some Asian kids who had straight A's and were like science geniuses who didn't get in because they let Sophie Kim. Well, this is part of the diversity of the Asian American community that goes to Harvard. They're not all nerds. They're not all woke. They're expressive individuals, and power to Sophie Kim, Harvard gender studies and theater student, for her play Iscariot that had its 3-day run at Harvard's Agassiz Theater. I like Agassiz Theater too. That's one of the nice theaters there in Cambridge on campus. I applaud Iscariot. And how dare the conservatives, on the one hand, praise the anti-LGBTQ website maker and then condemn something like a student project of where Jesus and Judas are high school seniors and have a Gaysian love story experience? That, my friends, is diversity. All right. Okay, sports fans. I bring this up last because I know not a lot of people are into sports. If you're a 49er fan like I am, then you were just crestfallen when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt because now they've got to go with this guy, Brock Purdy, who played his first game, maybe his second game, and they have I think 5 more games left in the regular season, and then the playoffs. This has been a really crazy season for football fans, but this is the way it should go. I mean, it should be up and down. It's not like everyone is so good because you play so many games. You're going to get hurt. There will be injuries. It's almost like you need 3 rosters to sustain the kind of physical toll that takes place to your team. But I just know that if you're going to get hurt, it's probably better to be like the Cowboys and get hurt early on in the season, then recover, and then get good. Like apparently they seemed good last night when they beat the Baltimore Colts, rather than the 49ers that were kind of like okay and then good in the middle. They got better in the middle and they really got good and then they get hurt again. I don't. It's cyclical. They're human beings. I don't know what's going to happen to the 49ers, but it's a long season, and let's hope that the third string guy Brock Purdy is ready. Because I know, look, there are a lot of Asian American 49er fans. So and not so many. Well, there are some Asian American Rams fans, but it's not a good time to be a Rams fan, nor is it a good time to be a Chargers fan. And I'm just picking up teams to like college wise. All hail Fresno State. I mean, Fresno State, Emil, come on. Really? Well, come on. Harvard didn't beat Yale. Come on. I got to root for somebody. I mean, even though Fresno State are the Bulldogs, just like Yale. I still, Fresno State, yeah, they're going to something called the LA Bowl. Now, college football is exciting. Root for Fresno State, LA Bowl. I think it's on in a couple weeks. The other thing I'm looking at is the Giants. Looks like they're for real. They might outbid the Yankees for Aaron Judge, and that would be great. I saw a couple stories saying Aaron Judge wants to live in the Full House house. The TV show Full House, which is kind of the Full House house. Wow. I guess it's one of those Victorians that they show that I think people live in. I think those are Victorians that, if I'm not mistaken, is it? God, now I'm ashamed as a San Franciscan because I used to know all these places. It's off. Is it off Alta Plaza or is it off of Alamo Square? It's just all the painted ladies, I guess they call them. I think that was like, if you ask me where the Mrs. Doubtfire house is in San Francisco, I know that house. But I didn't watch Full House. I'm sorry. Anyway, Aaron Judge, the baseball player, it's reported that he made a bid, which would be great. Because why would he live in San Francisco? To play for the Giants? When you make in excess of $300 million on a 9-year contract? I think the Giants are ready to bust the bank. Here's the thing about the Giants. I used to be a season ticket holder. All the good years, 2010 through 2015, and then I just stopped. I just said, it's kind of a drag to go see a losing team and you have season tickets. I mean, it's good if they're a winning team and you can sell the tickets, but the Giants are trying to win, or were trying to win, with lousy players who had 1 or 2 good years together. And then they got lucky and they went. Like a year before last, they had the most, I think the second most wins in franchise history. And they got in the playoffs and then they lost. Last year was dismal because all their lousy players were really lousy. They did not have the career years. I mean, that's sort of a predictable pattern. even during the good run between 2010 and 2014, because they could have been back in 2015 and 2016. It's just that their good players weren't as good. And, you can't do it with just mediocre players who have a couple of good years. So they're going to go for, and here's the thing: if you buy a star like Aaron Judge, you can be a lousy team, and people will come and see your lousy team. They will come to see the ballpark, and they will come to see Aaron Judge. They will make their money back. They lost a ton of money last year after the pandemic because no one wanted to see a lousy team, and they were a lousy team. They weren't as good as the team just the year before when, like I said, they won the second most ever in franchise history. So let's see what happens there. Aaron Judge would be great. Aaron Judge from around the Stockton area, that's where Linden is. If you've never been to Linden, it has literally one grocery store. It's not even a grocery store. It's kind of like it's a market, right? I mean, really, it's small. It's small. And I knew some people who live there. Their families have been there forever. And then I don't know Aaron Judge's background in terms of his family, how long they've been. It's an ag center. It's kind of a suburb of Stockton, California. But Aaron Judge is for real. He grew up watching the Giants. Let's hope he comes home. Okay, that's it. That's it for me. That's it for me. Got some writing to do. Oh, interesting PETA podcast that I'm working on. You know those guardsmen, the King's Guards, formerly the Queen's Guards, that those big hats they wear, bear caps? One bear per cap. And there's a lot of bears that have died for the Queen's Guards. They're trying to change that. That's on the Pete podcast coming up on Wednesday. Also coming up this week, I'm going to announce a story time I'm doing with a teller performer I met when I went to my college reunion. We said, we're going to do something. So we're going to do something. It's like 30-minute thing. Now it's that. All right. That's it. Hey, this is Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Catch it on YouTube at Emil Amok1. Catch it on Twitter at Emil Amok. EMILAMOK. Catch it on Facebook. Yeah, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. You can catch the pre-recorded stuff there, or the recorded as live stuff there. Here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific. Oh, and don't forget, if you know someone from Georgia, you got to call them up. You got to get ready for tomorrow. You got to get ready. You got to vote for tomorrow. And tomorrow, as I said, I'm going to talk to you about the real reason why I can't see Herschel Walker. I can't see Herschel Walker winning. And it has to do with his saying he'd rather be a werewolf. It does. It's back to that werewolf question that Barack Obama raised the other day. That's tomorrow. All right. Regular viewers of this show know that I like to meditate. Yeah, I know, Emil. You like to sit around and do nothing. No, I like to actually meditate. I like to. Yes, it's true. I sit around and do nothing, but I'm doing something. I'm really doing something. Like I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking about how much I love you. God, really? Ugh. No, really. It's about before you can honor the self-love and get through the shame and get through, the curtain of shame. Within, you've got to apply it toward others. and it comes back. It does. It comes back. Twofold, threefold, fourfold. Like I said, however many folds you want, it comes back. That's the secret. Self love begins with showing care, service to others. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal.